Salutations, everybody. It is Maddie here today, and I have done it. The drought is over. Not that drought. I'm still a virgin. I'm talking, of course, about the trailer analysis drought. I have not done a deep dive and in-depth analysis in actual ages. Today, we sit down and we break that streak for Starfield because Bethesda Game Studios' Todd Howard has specifically said that there are a lot of secrets and mysteries packed into this trailer, and we're going to break it down frame by frame. A lot of the information I have today, I've looked around, I don't see it all over the internet, so get excited. We got a lot of cool stuff in this trailer that I think will get you more interested in Starfield. So let's break it down frame by frame, and feel free to share this around if there's any cool stuff that you thought that maybe other people would find interesting. Now, let's get into the trailer analysis. All right, so our first image here shows that this is alpha in-game footage, which does not mean necessarily actual gameplay, but likely representative of what cutscenes will look like, and it's powered by the brand new Creation Engine 2, which is for next-gen technology. For those who don't know, Bethesda Game Studios has made a whole new engine to power their next-gen initiative, but it is in alpha, so this isn't indicative of the final product at all. Now, the audio is the most telling part of this part of the trailer, where it says the following.
Constellation Starship Frontier, we have you on scanners.
For those who couldn't make out the audio, it says Constellation to Starship Frontier, we have you on scanners. So it seems like the Constellation is this faction that's contacting the player from a base of some type, and we're going to get into who exactly the Constellation is later on in this analysis. After that, we see the interior of the Frontier, or as I like to say, the interior of the Frontier, because, you know, anyway. Okay, so there's not much to take away from this image other than, ooh, pretty lighting, kinda, and there's lots of storage here. Wish my house had this much storage. The only thing that really did catch my eye was on the left side of the screen, we could see a med kit, and it just got me thinking about healing in this game and how exactly it would work, because with Fallout, we know, oh, there's stim packs and food that you can eat, and then with Elder Scrolls, we have potions and food you can eat. So how will it work in Starfield? I assume there will be food you can eat. We see that much in this trailer, but I wonder about, you know, is it this med kit? Are there med stations? Is there survival mechanics? Just some food for thought there on how that can maybe work. But let's move on to the next image. All right, image 3 is going to live on in infamy for the rest of Bethesda's history, because we finally see someone climbing a ladder. It looks like good animations. For those who don't know, Bethesda Game Studios games have never had ladders that you can just climb. You always interact with them, it fades to black, and then you're in the next area. So we're thinking, oh my God, we can climb ladders. Well, Todd Howard said in an interview separately that's not the case. It's just you getting in and out of your ship. So, sorry to say, ladies and gentlemen, but it looks like ladders are not occurring in Starfield in the way that most games handle them. However, what is neat for Bethesda Game Studios games is now we can see holstered weapons. Something that was gone in Fallout 4 is now seemingly coming back. Over on the right shoulder, we can see what looks to be some type of weapon. There's also that same jetpack slash backpack that we saw within the Starfield leak many months ago, still there, so that held up throughout all those years. Because for those who don't know, apparently that screenshot was from a 2018 build. All right, now we're into the juicy stuff. This is where the speculation is really going to go wild. So we see this whole control center here in the middle of the room. First is the text that says no magnetic objects on display. We're going to get to those blinky lights in a second, but what exactly is on display in this control center? Well, potentially it's an image of the nearby area or the area that you have landed in, because it looks like there's topographic mapping on the nearest corner of this image on the table. The ship's status even says landed right next to it, so I feel like this strongly supports that theory. It also led me into speculative territory on procedural generation. Could maps actually be placed on this table in this manner if it's all randomly generated? I think it seems more and more likely that Starfield is completely handcrafted, but I know a lot of folks worry due to its comparisons with No Man's Sky from lots of leakers that this could just have a lot of procedural generation, but I don't know how those two mechanics could combine. Anyway, on top of this display, we see a Nova Galactic coffee cup, a brand that we will see later on in a much more important fashion. But more importantly is the blinky lights. That's what you're here for, right? You want me to analyze this type of stuff. You want me to blow it up in my editing software and read the fine print. So the bottom left states that you are in a station of some kind, a station that we actually see in later parts of the trailer and get a good feel for the lay of the land. Above that is a reference chart, and it says that you're a 22 minutes ETA to wherever you're heading. What I thought was the most unique part of this layout here was comparing the leaked HUD to the new HUD on this knob right here. One has a gravity meter from the leak. The other has general temperature of around 72 degrees. So I'm wondering, do the environments on each planet change, where sometimes it's about measuring zero gravity, sometimes it's about managing heat or cold? It really got me thinking about that potential there of each planet feeling truly different in Starfield. Off to the right of the familiar HUD are buttons that say Catalog, Simulate, Diagnostic, and Commit. It got me thinking as well if this is a table that you can generally interact with, sort of like a workbench, and you can move around all the buttons and press them. It'd be cool if you could individually interact with them without even going into HUD. This is supposed to be a next-gen game. I think that would be some type of next-gen feature of some kind, not involving all the menus. So we'll see how that plays out, but I do think this table has more importance than it's been given credit for. So, like I said, there's going to be food and drinks that you can likely pick up even in Starfield. Chunks baked potato, which is kind of like an MRE looking thing. It's like a potato literally there in a block. That's disgusting. Salami and cheese sandwich. You took one bite, you walked away. What's wrong with you? You got a can of, it looks like coffee, all right? A bottle of something, and cubed apples. What psychopath made the food here? I would not eat any of this. Anyway, like I promised, Nova Galactic flight manual. It's appearing in a much more important manner here. There's some fine print that reads training protocols and advanced orbital technology. The training protocols got me thinking, hey, is this post-tutorial? That could immediately be argued against because the ship is pretty scraped up when you get an outside look at it, showing that you've been on at least a couple of adventures, or maybe you're just borrowing a used up ship that you're gonna have to repair later on. But perhaps you are new to everything here based off your training protocols. Also, there was a weapon lying on the table. You can see on the stock area of the gun, if you flip it upside down on the left side, it says Krendel. Perhaps this is a brand in the game, or I just may be looking too deep on that. But beneath it is also a battery pack of some kind. And I found this especially strange because there's an ammo counter with 24 shots remaining out of 100 and an explosive warning label. So my theory was originally maybe the battery's powering something happening with the ammunition, but that really necessarily wouldn't make sense with an ammo counter. So it could be powering an element going into the bullets. That would be my speculation. Lastly is this canister behind the weapon, which I thought maybe was a key of some kind, but when you zoom in on it, it says like DigiPi or DigiPick. I'm not sure if that's a C afterwards, but it's a canister of some kind, and I have no idea what exactly that would be. Now is when we start to get into the narrative nitty-gritty of what Starfield is on a thematic level. So a Telegraph interview asked Todd Howard about the following books on this shelf. One of them was Sailing Alone Around the World. He said it's not a big hint, but it has relevance. So when you look up the book, a description for Sailing Around the World says it's a story about a sailor named Joshua Slocum. Not Slocum's Joe from Fallout 4, all right? Don't get it twisted. But he set out on a ship in April of 1895 to prove an expert wrong that someone could sail around the world. The book documents that entire journey, and you could read it for yourself if you want. These are real books. The other book is Omega. And that, on the other hand, got me excited at first because I thought, ooh, Fallout 3, Alpha Omega, maybe it's a nod. But it goes deeper than that on the level of what Starfield is. A bit more research and less fanboyism actually reveals this is a French science fiction novel about a comet crashing into Earth and some of the repercussions of that moment. So Todd Howard himself describes the Constellation as the last group of space explorers, and it got me thinking, is Earth done? Is it in trouble? Is it in jeopardy? Is it over with? Because it seems like that's the case if these books are relevant, and with you being the last group of space explorers, that you are going out for the sake of humanity. Something along those lines seems very likely. There's also a magazine type thing called the Constellation Spacefarer's Guide with a top-down shot of the station from the reveal trailer back in 2018. And I started wondering if maybe this was Starfield's Mass Effect relay just based off that trailer alone, and seeing now what exactly it is. Perhaps it's mapping parts of the constellation when your ship docks near it or something along those lines. Just a guess there. And also, there was a Constellation bin that we saw, which a lot of people are speculating will be the collector's edition for Starfield, because we see it physically in the making of Starfield trailer with a watch and a logo. The watch being the most important part because it has a year on the top that says, I believe, 2108. I can definitely make out the 21, but the last two digits I cannot. Now, Todd Howard says in an interview that over 300 years in the future is when this game takes place. So perhaps this is when the company who made it was established, but it's not exactly what time it is when it comes to the in-game universe we'll be exploring. More narrative juice. It does not end here, and we got even more after this. Some less important than others, like, for example, best settings on the top here with all various inputs. To me, doesn't seem to have any significance, but what does is a potential mechanic, like upgrading your ship. It says upgrade reactor. I think this would make a lot of sense. Once again, Todd Howard said this was all deliberately placed, so I personally believe this is indicating that upgrading your ship will indeed be a thing, especially with something like settlement mode being a thing that existed for Bethesda. I imagine customization, tinkering with your home ship in this case, would make a lot of sense. More importantly is Cydonia's security does not have a sense of humor. At first it seems like a quip, you know, your guy's rambunctious, obnoxious maybe, and he's given different planets a tough time. But after a little bit of research, Cydonia is a region on Mars. So I don't know if this is just a reference for maybe a faction of some kind that's from Mars, or we actually end up visiting Mars. It's possible because a Redditor actually analyzed some of Bethesda Game Studios' Emil Pagliarulo's docs in the Making of Starfield video, and it mentions multiple systems as well as ridding the United Colonies of some sort of pirates. And once again, deliberately placed. They would not let major narrative details slip out into the wild. They want us to look at this type of stuff. That's how Bethesda is wired. So I'm starting to connect the dots here and wonder if, you know what, is it possible we end up visiting Mars, and how many planets do we end up going to? There's also the mention of Vasco, and he says that we're out of tranquility. You got to do something about it, Vasco. Vasco is the robotic companion that will absolutely make waves on the internet in 2022. I can bet on it. I can bet on it. People are going to say, I'm going to protect him with my life, this beautiful young bot boy. I can see it now. Get ready for the Lady Dimitrescu treatment for Vasco. He's spotted throughout the trailer. He boards the ship at the end. Yeah, he's there. People are going to love him. He even waves to you at one point, for God's sakes. And also, there's photographs of Vasco, and he shows him on other planets. There's a sandy planet, an ashy-looking planet, or I can't tell if that's snowy. There's a tropical planet, so once again, indicating what different locales we may be exploring. There's even a neat Easter egg here. The 10th planet. This was a canceled Bethesda sci-fi game that never made it out, so they're giving a little bit of a nod there. And then there's also Alyssa DeMille something with a live poster. Perhaps just this is an indication of a band or a artist that the main character likes, or speculative brain being speculative brain. I'm sitting here thinking, hey, Fallout Pip-Boy Radio, something like that in Starfield. Come on, maybe. We'll see. Now, this is probably, outside of the narrative themes, the most important set of details when it comes to Starfield's story. The audio says this.
What you've found, it's the key to unlocking everything.
You have some kind of key to unlocking everything. On top of that, there's a mysterious note logging information about some alien-looking mechanism. So the Telegraph actually asked Todd Howard about this in an interview if it was a blueprint for a settlement or base building, to which Todd Howard said, it isn't a blueprint. And when asked for clarification, he said, that's part of the mystery. And people will freeze frame that and start speculating. So, well, shit, that's what we're doing now. Okay, then, I feel kind of attacked again. The top right of this sheet shows a cipher of some sort with beta, chi, delta, etc. And this could also be used to crack some sort of code. I imagine the internet is going to continue digging more and more, and I can guarantee we'll find some more out about this in the coming weeks. The image to the left looks to be a code or some top-down image of the same thing on the bottom right. Above that image on the bottom right, the text reads, quote, "We have so far been unable to determine what happens in the center," end quote. Now, I don't know if this is the center of the universe, kind of like a No Man's Sky thing, but I don't imagine this is just like a search for aliens. As you can see, some type of strange creature in one of the bits of concept art. But I, too, also am hoping we just see more alien races in the game to give it more of that sci-fi feel. To the bottom left of the bottom right image confirms rotating rings, more importantly, which to me suggests that it could be something along the lines of a globe looking like this, and that the key is maybe a planet you are searching for, or a specific object on a specific planet. I think of maybe the star maps in KOTOR where you're finding keys for this one major key itself to then locate it in this constellation and go get whatever it is you need to get. The top left image has a label beneath it stating, quote, "View from approach," end quote. So this is what the object would look like from this specific angle, and I imagine someone would have had to see it to document it. So maybe multiple planets have this, once again, to my star map theory. Or I also started thinking a little bit about you find this thing, but you can't enter it, and it's very important that you enter it for the future of humanity. So you have to go out to the rest of the galaxy and find out whatever gets you inside this specific alien structure. Other than that, it's really hard to read the text above it. All I could make out was coded chamber on the first bullet point. But other than that, probably Starfield's biggest mystery lies in this paper, and for the first person who can solve it in its entirety, that will cause a ton of discussion and speculation for where exactly Starfield is heading as a story. But that's about all I could dig up with that part. Next image, pretty simple, right? You need a little break from all that narrative juice. So you got to look at the cockpit. Looks great, man. And then a station that we're docked at in the background. You can see through the window, and you can also see it outside in other parts of the trailer. So nothing crazy here. However, we really haven't gotten into gameplay details outside of the one gun on the table. So we can see here the cockpit has a very analog look to it. It's very 70s. You don't see holographic screens and all that stuff, which I love, by the way. This is my favorite type of sci-fi. So a shout out to user Light Rave on Reddit. I saw this pointed out and it was sent to me, and it's got some exciting details on ship combat that I think will get people really pumped. So there's PFD, which stands for Primary Flight Display, PropCon, which is propulsion control, boost and brake. We can see that even in that part of the screen. SHLD for shield, and WPNS for weapons. I believe this is suggesting, as I said, ship combat, and that would definitely expand what Starfield feels like. You don't want to hear the complaints of, oh, it's just Fallout in space. That's how it plays, because it's clearly going to have first and third person shooting elements. We've seen leaked screenshots of the game in both first and third person. Now we're seeing guns. So having spaceship combat could be a major separating factor for it. It would be immensely important for Bethesda to nail this. It would also change the beat-for-beat exploration that Bethesda Game Studios games are known for. It's always on foot. It's always respite. You don't have those moments in a vehicle, though. You can get on a horse in Skyrim, but that's really it. So for me personally, seeing vehicles in a Bethesda Game Studios game is significant. And I could probably make the argument that they built the entire Creation Engine 2 around that right there. Like, I don't believe vehicles were really easy to do based off Fallout the Frontier inside Creation Engine. So that is something that's pretty significant for a Bethesda Game Studios game. Speaking of significant Bethesda Game Studios games, I'm sure you're really curious about Elder Scrolls 6 in this, and it looks like there's an Easter egg here on the right of the screen. It shares the same shape as High Rock and Hammerfell, and Hammerfell being all but verbally confirmed by Bethesda Game Studios thanks to prior teases that we've analyzed on the channel. This really lends it more validity. I think this was deliberately placed. Some people have said, oh, stop, that's not anything. No, once again, this doesn't just find its way into a trailer. It's just not like a nick, like someone bumped into it. This was put there. It absolutely is saying yet again that Hammerfell will be the main setting for Elder Scrolls 6. So just mentally prepare for that. Do your research on the lore in that area. Get it all done with ahead of time. Behind the player character's seat, we see another menu with multiple bits of text there that has been shortened for terms like life, power, and gravity. I think life is self-explanatory, standing for the ship's life and how many hits you can take before it's time to go repair that bad boy. Meanwhile, power could have to do with one of two things: thruster boosts, going faster, quicker across space, or it could have to do with charging your weapons, being overheated, the strength of your weapons. As for gravity, my guess has to be something with affecting the speed of the ship. That would be my only guess for it, though. We also see little menus mentioning bus 1, 2, 3, and a reactor with different knobs for output. I believe these are different sections of your ship, and if it says that you can upgrade your reactor, perhaps you can upgrade different parts of bus 1, 2, and 3. Although my knowledge of ships and aircrafts is really not that strong, so that's just a guess there. And to the right of that is a breaker panel for different parts of the ship. The only two I can make out are shield and thrusters, so perhaps this is like a fail-safe area in case things start to really go wrong for the player character. Speaking of the player character, last shot of the trailer before the release date, you see a first look at the face of the main character, and as expected, it is a human. Now, this is something that was not a major detail, but I think warranted a discussion because a lot of people have wanted, even since Fallout, like, let me play as a super mutant, and so on and so forth. People have wanted race customization in all of these sci-fi games. Like in Mass Effect, you're playing as just a human, male or female. And in this game, it seems like you were just playing as a human, and the way the story's setting up, where you're a part of Constellation, and you're trying to help humanity out, and it's a story themed around hope. Yeah, it would make sense that you're going to play as the human going to all these different systems and planets and exploring this foreign galaxy. I think that makes a lot of sense on a thematic level, but I do wonder if one day they'll allow us to play as all the different races I anticipate will be in this game. But outside of that, that's all I've got for you in our first in-depth analysis in actual ages. So I think I got the rust cleaned off of me pretty well. I'm hoping I did a good job. Let me know what you think of this trailer analysis and anything that you picked up, of course, in the comments down below. I always tell people this when it comes to my trailer analysis videos, is I want it to be the hub for all information on Starfield, so people can go in here, see my video, dive into the comments, see all the feedback, all the pickups that the audience has made, and be like, hey, I got enough. I learned everything I needed to here, and then stay kind of locked into the channel there, because that's what it's all about, is information circulating. And a lot of it is thanks to the audience. So a big thank you to all of you who have sent little things you've noticed my way and analyzed it alongside me. This was a blast to do. It's good to be back doing these. Don't expect them all the time. It's for very particular cases. This happens to be one of them where, you know, we're so far away from gameplay that I want to break down this trailer, talk about it more, get more familiar with the universe. Because for me, after looking at this whole trailer and then breaking it down and seeing the concept art, man, I'm more excited for it. I really like what I'm seeing here. I'm seeing ship combat. I like the themes it's based off of. It seems very much like BioShock in that way, where when I start to see games take from books, I get a very good feeling about them on a universe level. Not that this is a super uncommon thing, but when it's very out there, kind of like how Ken Levine was with Ayn Rand, I think that's always a really good sign because they're drawing from a source. They're drawing from some inspiration. So I think that's really important. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I leave it in your hands now. What do you think of everything we've discussed with Starfield here in this trailer analysis? Let me know alongside your scoops. Other than that, a humongous thank you to everyone who's been supporting all the content we're doing here. We've been really pumping out videos, pumping out this long-form, high-quality content, and it's thanks to all your support that we have the willpower and the means to do so. So thank you, both patrons and viewers alike, for supporting everything we're doing here. And with that, I'll talk with you very soon. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.